what's going up, everybody? What's up, Canes fans? It is Thursday night. We are just under 30 days away from kickoff, which I cannot believe how quickly this offseason has gone. Mitch, you got crap for saying natty on IG? I don't know, man. I don't blame you for having high hopes. I don't think we have a chance at a natty, but yeah, what do I think of players saying the goal? And I love it. I love it. Got to aim high. But got for you guys tonight. Let's let the chat fill up a little bit. Great guests. We're going to talk some recruiting. Going to talk some, a little bit of fall camp now with, camp literally starting like tomorrow. There, finally refreshed. I was like, usually I have more comments by now. Here we go. Guiche, what's going on, sir? Les, what's up, my brother? Joshua, I think you're a relatively new viewer. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate it. So going to do a little bit of, like I said, recruiting talk. Camps right, or not just around the corner. We're on the eve of it. It starts tomorrow. So some positions battles going on, a little bit of news to get to. And of course, for all that, I had to bring in the big guns. Let me bring in my guest right now. Ooh, what's going on, my man? How's everything?
Oh, good, John. Thank you very much for having us. It's exciting. The eve of, and as you said, a lot of position battles. Concentrating basically on the team. We have that the recruiting on the back burner, but what a June, July has been. So there's a lot of hope and a lot of promise for the upcoming season. And then, you do well this season, and the recruiting that you did this year will repeat itself next year. And that's a good thing. And they finally got the ball rolling, and I'm excited. And like you said, there's a whole lot of position battles starting tomorrow, and we'll see what happens. But we know where a couple of them that are pretty well solidified. But other than that, there's just glancing, at the battles and some of the newcomers that are going to make a huge impact. Yeah, I'm excited. I think the next, 10 days will really, really get everybody excited because other than one or two guys, they're healthy. And that's a good thing.
That's a real good thing because a lot of guys were nicked up in the spring and stuff. And I think people were a little concerned. But, I don't think a lot of them were. So it was just, more precautionary than anything. But speaking of, obviously doing well this season and that carrying into recruiting, how crucial? I mean, it's year one. Is there a little bit of a honeymoon phase for him, or how crucial is it for him to come in and just right out of the gate, win the Coastal, maybe even contend or even win the ACC? Is it crucial for him, or like what do you think about that?
Well, it's crucial in the fact that we're here in 2022, and if recruiting, there's a lot of these people who right now are still in the doubting mode and just waiting for Miami to slip up so they could say, you know what, I told you, they're the same team, and why would you want to go there? And they're going to try to shake, the Maui Agoas and people like that loose. But I think these are pretty solid. I think that the recruiting has gone to the point where these guys know what's in store, and they know that, what's here, and, what's on, in the camp on campus now. They're realists. They understand that they're part of the bigger picture. And, right now, I'd like to see them, contend, for a playoff spot, but it's not reality yet. I mean, it's just, you got so many new faces, new people. It's a shame that, but here's the thing too. You have so many really good football players who transferred in, like a Parrish, that gives you an opportunity, because I remember they recruited the heck out of him before he went to Ole Miss. So I think the thing is you got to understand that teams like Pittsburgh and teams like Virginia, Pittsburgh loses a quarterback, but then they go out and get Slovis from USC. And, a guy like that is a defensive oriented guy. So he's going to always have some punch back. But even Miami, under Manny, they were, 3 years in a row, they beat the Coastal Division champions, Pitt and Virginia. So, it's all relative. I think Miami's, the only thing that I don't think anything really stops them into the future. This year's just got to get some chemistry, and thank goodness that you open up with a Bethune instead of an Alabama, because because you know how the fans are. Even though it was in Alabama, they're going, oh well, you know what, he's overrated, and he lost when he was at Oregon, and see, you don't want to plant anything in anybody's heads. I think they come out, take care of business, and I believe go 3-0 before they head out to a College Station. So to answer your question, not crucial that he win it all, but I think it's crucial that he wins the games that he's supposed to win. And obviously, the couple of road games will be tests, and they always are. They are for Alabama. I mean, when Alabama goes to Ole Miss, or Georgia goes into Kentucky, those games are always going to be contested. So, but win the games you have to win. Don't pull that, taking it down to the wire with an App State or one of those. You can't, I mean, and I'm not saying that they're going to be like they were, back in the 80s and beat West Virginia 56-7 is good. But those times will come as long as you're recruiting like you are.
Oh, 100%. And I've been saying this for years. I think if you just take care of business in the games you're supposed to win, you'll not only win the Coastal, you'll run away with the Coastal. Like, it won't be a problem. And I feel like every year we're like, even with all the struggles we have, you mentioned it, we all Coastal champ, because it shows our ceiling, our potential. But it's like we're always like a missed field goal or a missed tackle away from, you just got to win that one more game and you win the Coastal. Yeah. That happens so many times over the years.
Exactly. So, and if you look back at last year, if it wasn't for the field goal that they made against App State, they would have lost. So, it goes both ways. And but I think that they would much rather create that, that breathing room early on, like be leading against teams like Southern Miss and like 28-0 at halftime or something like that, rather than it being a 7-6 game. So, but that's coming. That's coming. And I think, and I've said this over and over again, whether it be on our show on Monday night on QAM or wherever, is that the thing that's really nice about what's going on now, you're getting the recruits coming and you got some good kids coming in from the portal, but your coaching staff's unbelievable. And, I had an opportunity this spring, going to a lot of games and seeing, the Charlie Strongs and, those type of coaches and the Frank Ponces and, being on the sidelines and watching them and Mirabel and seeing how they deal with the players. And I think from getting Ray Nathaniel Joseph, I mean, you had your offensive coordinator kind of buried at Palm Beach Gardens that entire day, watching all those teams. And in the spring classic, they had 10 schools, but he waited. He waited the entire day and watched both halves of the Edison game. And Clemson was there, So, and we even asked Nathaniel about that, and he goes, and because I had a feeling that Miami sealed the deal that day, because you had Gaddis, who was there from, I don't know, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the afternoon till 9 at night, and weathered a 2-hour lightning delay. So I think they won that battle that day, and that's from experience. And Charlie Strong, I can't tell everybody how valuable he is, head coach, a guy. You see, when you have head coaches and you have coordinators, they already were in the position of authority, so they know how things need to be run. So they understand that a lot better than a guy to position coach for the first time.
Yeah,
and absolutely. Even Frank Ponce, who was a coordinator at App State, he understands, and he worked at Louisville, so he's been at a Power 5 school. It's so I think the guys that you have in here, and Kevin Smith, who obviously knows, he was at UCF for a number of years, a guy who's a Miami Southridge grad. He knows all these people down here. So I think from a recruiting standpoint, Miami's in great shape, and I think from a playing standpoint, they're in really good shape.
Yeah, and speaking of our assistant staff, you spoke about our OC, Josh Gaddis. One of the questions when he got hired was, is Miami, like Les says, is Miami going to run more pro-style heavy set with tight ends, or we're going to do more of a spread? I'll give the quick and easy answer. I think it's going to be kind of a balance attack with who we got a quarterback. You got to use him. I don't know if you want to chime in on that. I don't know if you agree. If it's going to be more balanced or more run heavy.
Well, here's the thing: you really don't have that X, that receiver like you had last year in Rambo yet. I thought it would be, or Osborne the year before. I thought it would be Jacoby George. He didn't real. I mean, and I've watched Jacoby since he was in ninth grade when he was a punter and a kicker at Plantation too. But he didn't. Nobody really, and I know they had injuries, but I mean, you take a look at what they have at that position, and I'm only singling this out because you have to add balance. We already know that their running back room is nuts. I mean, and obviously Jalen Knighton ended the season as that guy, a guy that can not only run the ball from the line of scrimmage, but he gets out with a linebacker in space, and it's over. And then you bring in Parrish, and you also have a guy who's getting healthier in Cheney. And then you have Thad Franklin, who's a big time back down near the goal line. And then you have a freshman who I don't think they're ready to take the wrapping off of him, but he's there just in case. So you have the balance from the running game. But what do you have? At receiver, I mean, I think you go in with like a Keyshawn Smith and a Romello Brinson, still untested. And then you have a younger kid like Kobe Young. And then you go to that Z position where Frank Ladson would make the most sense because he's coming in. I know Jacoby George has been here for 2 years. And then I like Isaiah Horton because he's going to be somebody down the line that's got a chance to be special. And then you look at the slot or the F or whatever they call it. And Restrepo, I think, deserves it. He catches everything. And then you have Rashard Smith. So if you could come out of there with somebody – like last year when they had Rambo, and it elevated what Harley did. Harley had his best year as a Hurricane last year, only because somebody like Rambo would catch 9-10 balls a game, and he would take the corner play. And, if you had corner, usually your best defenders on that side of the ball are going to be your cover corners. So that's what I'm saying. If you get that one guy, one guy could step up from who they have on the roster, because I don't think they're going to bring anybody else in right now. In fact, I know they're not, but they're going to go with what they have. And if they could get productivity from that, that receiver on the outside, that'll make a whole lot of difference, because you've got you have the two slot kids in Restrepo who catches everything, and you got Brashard Smith who's got jets, and then you've got 5 or 6 different other combinations that you could use. And like you said, they got a quarterback that they don't have to worry about. The offense is going to be built to suit him, because if it's I know that, and you got to figure Lashley was a pretty darn good play caller. It's just that he was restricted in a lot of ways too. Their offensive line was average. It got a whole lot better with maturity and a couple of additions. So I think if things fall into place, they could average 35 to 40 points a game.
Yeah, and like you said, you need that one guy that can blow the top off the defense.
Yeah,
to run that, to have room to run that kind of more spread style.
Sure.
Jason brought these 2 blast from the past names up. I remember Jamie German. I do not remember Jeff Taylor.
yeah, I remember both. Jamie's kid is going to be emerging. He and Ty Wise's son and Martin Bibla, those 3 guys may be the next legacy, because Jamie's kid is a track guy. And yeah, I remember both of them. But, the whole thing is Jamie was a different bird. I mean, but you had a whole lot more talent back then. You had a whole lot more established talent. But I definitely think in the ACC, I don't care what conference you're playing in, you need a go-to guy. Like you said, you need somebody that's going to drag that corner away from the action. So if you run somebody like Jalen underneath or whoever, or your tight ends, see, that's another thing. Because what that does is create with Arroyo and then also Will is because that they could do the job. And can you imagine what's going to happen? The frustrating thing about Will is he hasn't been able to stay healthy. But some of his best plays, if you look over the last 2 years, have been ones that have been called back. He had a 72-yard reception. He had a 68-yard reception. Not his fault. But that's another thing that you're going to see less of, mistakes. And because of the fact that, when everything gets going and your line is there, and you have Zion, and you have Rivers and DJ Scaife and Ja'Kai Clark, you got a good nucleus. You have a really good nucleus of I think, that can compete against anybody. But their problem this year will be depth. I mean, when do you take the wraps off of Michael McLaughlin? Do you use Jonathan Dennis, who has he and Logan Sagiapolo have the ties to this staff, and from being out in Oregon. I mean, to me, I like the kid Osman Traore kid, because I think he's big and strong, and also Justice. So and then let's not forget about John Campbell. So they have guys. Do they have quality backups? And that to me is a thing that I'd worry about early on. I mean, because now you're going to start pretty much the camp without Zion. He's banged up, and then I think the other kid Rodriguez, I believe, he's out as well. So depth is going to be just like on the defensive side, depth at the linebacker position. I think depth at offensive line has been a question mark. You look back 2-3 years ago when they were playing Pitt, and I still remember that they couldn't hold these guys off to the point where they were, like I remember Harris, the running back, that he would start and he would get pushed all the way back 5 yards because the linemen were going back 5 yards. You're not going to see that anymore. I mean, this is all going to be, moving forward. And I think that's where you're going to see the difference. And guys like Rivers, who's big and strong. And we mentioned Ja'Kai Clark and Nelson and Campbell. So I think that's where it all begins. Yeah. If these guys stay healthy, it's not the deepest position, but you're building it now by getting Maui Agoa and 3 or 4 other guys in the next class. So everything takes care of itself. But I think, and I don't blame the fans, because you've had so many years of, oh, we're going to get there, and you don't get there. And but I think this time around, there's so much pride, in Mario being a Hurricane, and he came back when he really didn't have to. He could have stayed there in Oregon forever, and had, had real financial security. But I think he came back because it's his school, and I think he was given an opportunity to build this program, and he's going to have the facilities to do it. So that it was a no-brainer. But I think when you take a look at this program, everything points in a win-win direction. And whether they get it done this year, I don't think, like I said, I don't think they're going to play for the national title. But they're going to definitely be a whole lot better, and they're going to put away the games that they should put
totally
away.
Agree.
That's important.
Yeah, sorry, I had to move the computer a little bit.
No, that's all right.
But you guys can still hear me?
Yeah, no, I can hear you.
Awesome. So, yeah, no, you pointed out one thing, the lack of depth at O-line, and I think that's going to be the one Achilles heel possibly for this offense, is if a couple guys get nicked up on that line. You already see it with Rodriguez and Zion. Zion may miss 1 or 2 games. We don't know. I mean, luckily those first couple games is not that big of a deal. But if you start missing him for like the A&M game, the North Carolina game, I don't think they have the depth at tackle yet to overcome an injury like that, or Rivers, who's already been hurt. He was hurt all of last year. Yeah, I don't know if they would have the depth to overcome that.
I agree. But I will say this: if they stay healthy with that frontline talent, you don't have to worry about inserting, Seymour, or Logan Salapalo, or Traore, or any of those guys. But as long as Nelson, Rivers, Clark, and Scaife and Campbell remain relatively healthy, then now you're talking.
Absolutely. So Les had a good question here. Blue, has our offense improved greatly from last year? Which position has gotten stronger from last year, in your opinion?
Besides the defense, he says. The defense.
Defense. Okay. I'm sorry. I read
offense. Yeah. Okay, because we were just talking about what has made the offense a little bit stronger, and that's that offensive line. Defensively, you have some iffy guys, but I think that the kid Mitchell Agudi comes in because let's face it, he's played before. He's a proven guy. He and Caleb Johnson. So they move the bar a little bit. You gotta have Harvey in there. He's quick. He's the type of guy. Leonard Taylor certainly is ready to, embrace this season. I like the Harrison Hunt kid. I think he's done a tremendous job. But you have versatility on this line because you have the kid Messidor, Lichtenstein, who came in from USC, a kid from that I had a chance to watch at Cypress Bay, Darrell Jackson, who I think is going to be really, really good. So you have more avenues to go. I know Moss is young, but we saw in the spring game that when he puts on some more weight, and continues to learn the system, he's certainly got the athletic ability. So from that standpoint, I think up front's going to be good, and it needs to be, because I think that they're going to have to move James Williams, I think, into that what's the name of that position that they had?
The star.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That was it. Because they right there, they have Gil Frierson is playing that, and also they have Wesley Bissainthe, who's really not ready yet. He's, he's got got to grow a little bit more. When he does, he's going to be a beast. But you start in there with your linebackers. You have Keontra Smith, who's a really good tackler, and he's a physical guy. I think Caleb Johnson will come and play in the middle. If you watch his film, I tell your listeners to go watch. Your viewers to go watch the film, because you'll see Caleb's an instinctual type of guy. Still have Corey Flagg. He led the Hurricanes in tackles. He's not if you're an elite team, he's not a starter, but he's certainly a guy to fall back on because he makes plays. And then I mentioned, you still have Chance Williams too on that defensive front. I forgot to mention him. I was thinking of him when I was looking thinking of Rivers. Wayman Steed's injury prone, and we know that. Great guy, great family. Got Chase Smith still. The linebackers are going to be kind of iffy, but I'm saying if you move, it's called a Sam. That's what it is. I'm getting old. Yeah, I'm getting old, but I think that if you move James Williams into the Sam position, then it lets you use Avante Williams and Kitchens as safety. So then you have definitely, with I'm a Darrell Porter Jr. fan. I watched him for 3 years. Watched his dad when his dad played at Boston College and with the Dolphins and in high school at St. Thomas, and very instinctual cat. And he could play. And then you have Stevenson. So your Stevenson and mostly Porter will be at the corners. You got Alvante Williams and you've got Cam Kitchens at the safety spot. You still have the kid Dunson. So to me, the weak spot I guess the deficient of depth spot on the defense is linebacker. And I think this will basically be the last year you're going to see it like that, because next year you're going to have a much seasoned Wesley Bissainthe, who's a beast. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He was such a must get. I was telling somebody the other day, first time I ever saw him as a ninth grader, was in the gym at Miami Central, and he stood under the basket and just jumped straight up and dunked the ball. And I'm thinking, holy mackerel, that kid. He played basketball, but I mean, yeah, so guys like that, I think they're going to build their defensive secondary. You're adding a lot of guys. You still have Clark in the secondary, who, but to answer the question that was put upon them, going to be better. They're going to be more athletic. I think I think the kids that come, Mitchell Goody and also Caleb Johnson, make them more seasoned and more athletic, because both of them are terrors. And you saw what happens when, you get a guy like, for a year or two, like they did with Quincy Roche and stuff, that they've come in here with experience. And they, if anything else, they rub off on the young kids. And having a Jason Taylor there now is invaluable. I mean, because you get Jason to work with one of those DN kids, like whoever is at the DN. So even Jafari Harvey, I always call him Jafari, but I guess his name is Jafari.
He was Jafari for like 3 years. So
yeah, it's been now. I know, I agree. But even working with him, because I saw what Jason did at the high school level, with some of those kids and how he worked with them, and, just one move here and there. And like Nick Benito, here's a perfect example. I remember it was in the game against the Bosco from California. Nick came in and he showed him one or two moves on the side. Now the guy's with the Denver Broncos. So, it's not to say that everybody he touches is not going to be a minus thing, but you got to like the chance. And the one thing is, you get all these Hall of Fame guys and guys who've been there, done that. Jason Taylor hates to lose. He hates to lose. I mean, that's a guy that he'll take it, he takes it literally. And so, isn't that, I mean, you have a guy, it's a Hall of Fame guy who brings everything to the table, plus he has an attitude about him. So that's the way your staff is. He and Mario are perfect for each other. They do not compromise. And unfortunately, for the last 20 years, we've had coaches here that compromise.
Yeah. No, I grew up, I'm born and raised here in Miami, grew up a Dolphin fan. I've heard JT takes losing like life and death, basically. Like,
yeah. Well, Stephen Gomez is asking, I see the question. The thing about James Williams, his hips are loose enough to cover, but at the same time, he's got, he could put on 30 pounds over the next 2 years and be a first round draft pick and he's been like this forever. Imagine that guy was a safety in high school at 6'4.5". So, and here, I think he could play that Sam position. I really do. I mean, you know what? Pat Surtain and I had these talks when he was at Heritage, and we always agreed, put his butt in the damn box. What are you backing him up where he's going to film the game for? I mean, you don't need a guy like that, getting a ball, if they don't, because remember, teams aren't going to, if he's in the safety spot, if he's in a free safety spot, they're not going to throw to his side. So he's never really going to be utilized, like Kenny Phillips. When Kenny Phillips was at Miami Carroll City, I even had to tell him, I think in a Northwestern game, I said, Kenny, you better rub dirt on yourself. And you're not getting any play at all back there. And that's the same thing about James Williams. So if you move him in the box, look what happens. It's a whole different world because they're going to have to run in that front 7 or that front 8 or however. They're going to have to go at him sooner or later. And he saw last year, he's got great ball skills. He just has to have better tackling skills, and that'll come. I mean, I think right now, as we speak, starting with the practice tomorrow and the next week, I think you're going to see him really be looked upon because you do not want to sit Alvonte Williams and you don't want to sit Kinchins. They just can't. They're just too valuable playmakers.
They're both special. I agree.
Yeah.
As cover safeties, I think they're special. But thank you, Stephen, for the dono and the great question. Lots to be excited about there going into camp. Both sides of the ball. Real quick, don't want to keep you on too much longer, but
no, I'm here. So.
Yeah. I want to touch on recruiting at least a little bit because there's a couple couple commitment announcements coming up here in the next days. Tomorrow is kind of an important one. You got Connor Liu announcing. I believe at the moment you still have William Fowles announcing. And you got Jaden Bonsu announcing on the 14th. So, a big next kind of 5 to 7 days here. But let's start with the biggest one, Bonsu, because that's kind of a story now with the crystal balls dropping for Ohio State now. How are you feeling about Bonsu right now? Because I think Cane fans are feeling pretty good, and then that happened. So,
yeah, well, you know what? I like him. I watched him. I went to a camp where he was at. A good guy. He will hit you. He can cover. He could do a lot. And I think that the important thing is, and I think it was Mario Cristobal that brought up, you use your recruits and your current players to sell guys like him. And that's what needs to be done. You need to, James Williams or Kinchins needs, hey, brother, we need you, or Alvonte, we need you back here. Come on out here next year and you'll be in the mix. And within 2 years, you're going to be the dude because everyone else is going to be gone. So if he goes to Ohio State, I mean, obviously I'm not going to knock a team that's as talented as they are, or Alabama or any of that. But there's a pecking order. And I had said that to Brandon Innes. And, I said to Brandon, I said, you're going to Ohio State where Marvin Harrison's kid is and Tate and all these really good guys. Right. So you got to, you're going to have an opportunity, but you can't not make the most of. You don't make the most of your opportunity right away, there's other guys that they're going to favor, and that's the one thing why Bonsu will have some room at this school, to kind of grow. I mean, they have their secondary coaching is superb, and the
Mhm.
players that they have. And like I said, you're James Williams, Kinchins, or Alvante, you're on the horn saying, talking to him, and they can do that. That's perfectly, that's what you need to do. And even the present recruits, for having a Maui Agoa or one of these guys say, or what's his name, Jaden, the defensive end, Wayne, is that his, I can't think.
Jaden Wayne, yeah.
Yeah, why not him? Here's a guy too that the irony about Jaden is I got a chance to watch him up close and personal. And this is what's wrong with these fan websites that rank players. He goes from a 5 to a 4-star. That guy's every bit a 5-star because he committed to Miami.
Agreed.
And somebody had a vendetta, and it's always been like that. Someone don't like Miami, so they're going to drop him. And why? And here's the funny thing is he left last year pretty much a 5-star. So what did he do in the last 6 months? He didn't do anything but go to a camp or this and that. He didn't play a game. And that's the one thing to me, when you leave one season and they rank you, other than if you have spring and, you've got like Harvey, he's a kid that left his junior year as a pretty good player, but then he transferred, went to Vero Beach, and they utilized him in a different way, and he blew up. And that's the only way you would, but that bothers me about this. And I've been doing this a long time, and it usually doesn't, but it does because it affects the kid. Here he is a 5-star, and then he's questioning, what did I do, to go down in stars.
Right.
But that, to answer your question, I think to get a Bonsu or to get Lou or any of these guys, the current class of 2023 has got to work it. And just like they did a couple of years ago when they got all those kids and, those classes, it just, they see. But the thing is a couple of years they had that one good class, with Rivers and all these guys like that. But then it stopped last year and the year before. It didn't really click. But this thing, I think, is going to click.
Agreed. And it's not, like in the past, I feel like Randy Shannon had the one great recruiting class, didn't add to it.
No.
Al Golden was a second year, had a number 8 recruiting class.
Yeah.
Artie Burns and Tracy Howard didn't build on it.
Right.
Rick, same thing. If you stack chips, if you could stack layers of like 3 top 10 classes in a row,
no doubt. No doubt. I mean, and that's what I said. I even said that to Manny Diaz. I said, you know what? You got this class that you just had. You got some kids in it, but you got to repeat that. And if you don't repeat it, which I don't think is going to be a problem here. I think that this 24 class are already looking at a lot of these kids for 24. These kids are seeing how much fun it is, to be a Hurricane. And some of the things, getting these guys down for legends. And you see, even if the kids never heard of some of these players, just the fact that their names are up on the banners and stuff like that. Because to me, I went to the Legends camp as an OG, and I loved the guys that came back. I mean, to me, and I even said, you got to get Ted Hendricks, who arguably is the greatest Hurricane ever, 11-time Pro Bowler, first and the only 3-time consensus All-American at this school. So I said, you got to have a guy like that. I mean, these kids may not know him from the beans, but here's a guy that grew up in Hialeah, was a all-state basketball and baseball player, arguably one of the best, defensive ends in the NFL, one of the top in history. And he comes from your school. So you get that guy on there just like they do with Ed Reed and Highsmith. And, and it was good to see all those guys come back. Edgerrin James, who's in the Hall of Fame, and, and Gito Toretta, who goes to everything, and Lamar Thomas, who comes to everything. And that's the way it should be. Because it's certainly like that at USC, where, Keyshawn and all the Marcus Allen, and they all walk the sideline. Miami's always been like that. The Blades brothers, Michael Irvin, who, listen, Michael Irvin doesn't have to do what he does every year, but he comes back, and the Legends, and these guys only know him now from TV. They didn't remember when he played with the Cowboys, or because he was, they're a lot younger. but they see what I mean, the guy's in great shape and he comes out here and pep talks them, and because he loves the school. And, and there's a lot of guys that love the school. And I think that's so important. So to me, at Legends, it was nice. There were some kids that were good, but I was just more, I was looking at all the guys that came back. And I think that because for me, I grew up in that era and watching those guys. And, it's a thrill. And I think these kids have to understand that Miami, maybe they had that brief period in the 80s and the 90s and part of the 2000s to be relevant. But look at it's produced. I mean, it's produced a lifetime of guys that a lot of people still remember and respect, and that's important.
Yeah, legends, like names that'll never die.
No doubt, no doubt.
Yeah. So, Blue, really appreciate you coming on, man. I know you got your radio show on QAM, and I know you got you guys you're like a regular now, I guess, on Jazz's show on Wednesdays, which I always catch. So aside from that, is there anybody people can catch your content and catch you regularly?
Yeah, well, LarryBluestein.com is a local site, but I mean it's stacked. I mean we have it's in Dave and Broward. And then I do a prep red zone Florida, which is the whole state. And I went to 11 college camps, saw 350 different schools since April, saw almost 4,000 players, got a chance to go to IMG twice. So that Florida prep, Florida red zone, it's red zone Florida. It's really prep red zone Florida's a thing that will cover from Key West all the way to Pensacola. And if you're interested in a lot of local kids, I have lists from, and we're coming out with our top 100 list for the state for 24. We already have it out for 23, but we have it for 24. And you're going to see a lot of Canes, future Canes on that list. And just like 23. You have a lot of those kids that locally, and then 22 with Wesley Basaint and those guys like that. So that's what we do. And I appreciate you having us. And anytime, just let us know and we'll be here.
All right. Sounds good, man. There you have it. A legend in local recruiting, Larry Bluestein. Thanks you so much for coming on.
Right.
Really appreciate it. Guys, go catch us. I was about to send him off, but he beat me to it. You Blue, really appreciate it. Catch up on these comments here. Jonathan, oh, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Yes, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Yeah, I really got nothing more to add than that. I think he put it perfectly, man. We're all really excited about the season starting. Today's basically over, so we'll call it 29 days left until the season. It's getting close, man. It's getting real. Camp starts tomorrow. All the storylines of the position battles that fans are going to read way too much into are, they're going to start. So it's a fun time. This is one of my favorite times of the year. And unfortunately, it hasn't led to a season aside from like one or two seasons since like 2005. But I think it's going to be different now. It's going to change, and it's going to be a lasting change. It's not going to be like a couple years. We're excited. No, nothing more I can say. Thanks again, Blue. With that, I leave you guys 106 in the chat. Please go hit that subscribe button. It is my goal to hit 2,000 subs by the time the season starts. So please help me do that. As always, guys, go Canes.